Well, hello everyone. I'm Dan Wood with Drafted Digital, and I'm really excited today. I've got Amanda M. Lee with me. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Dan.
Amanda is a best-selling author in the cozy mystery genre, and just has over the years done extraordinarily well with sales at in the KU market. Just the cozy mysteries are really, really popular with people, and especially, I figure right now that it's a good genre to be in.
It really is. People, actually, I think people are in two markets right now. Like the preppers, I know are doing really well too with the apocalyptic stuff. So you get your group
Yes.
who wants to read about the end of the world, and then you have your group that just really wants light and fluffy stuff. So I think if you're in genres that fall out of probably those two camps, might not be doing as well right now. But I have the light and fluffy stuff, and it's doing pretty well.
We've also been seeing kind of uptick in nonfiction, and right now, like the beach reads, where people are just, maybe they can't travel and maybe don't have a beach right next to them, and so they're wanting to kind of get that escapist getaway experience.
Yeah, and I've never really been a nonfiction reader all that much, but nonfiction's what's actually taking up like the top 10 spots on the charts right now because of what's going on in the world. So, nonfiction is doing really well too.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, one thing I want to talk about, I think when people think of you and the people that know you from some of the different writers groups and forums, prolific is kind of the word I hear people throw around. And we've kind of talked about it before. Everyone is wondering, what is Amanda's secret? So today, people, Amanda's going to announce her secret. You're going to love it. Or how is it? First of all, how many books do you write? Like, what is your pace right now?
2 to 3 books a month, and there are 60,000 words to 95,000 words, depending on. When I write under Lily Harper Hart, they're 60,000 word books. When I write under Amanda M. Lee, they're 90 to 95,000 word books. And I do probably 2.5 would be the optimum. I tend to write at least 9,000 words a day, Monday through Friday. And then I add, especially now, usually when I could go places, I didn't write all that much on the weekends, but I still get at least a chapter in every day on the weekends, sometimes 2. If the weather's bad, I might get 3 because there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And I used to write at Starbucks, and that is no longer an option. So I'm kind of stuck at home doing the writing, which has thrown off my schedule a bit. I still get it done, but I don't get it done. It used to be that I'd have all 9,000 words done by noon so I could go play Pokemon and enjoy myself in the pool. And now I find myself meandering. Like today, I've written 6,000 words today, but I still have another chapter that has to get done sometime before I go to bed tonight.
Are you kind of stockpiling for when this is all over, or are you, with the extra writing, are you just releasing them as they are ready?
No, I am one of the strange people. I'm 6 months ahead. So the book I'm working on right now is a December release. By the end of the month, I will have all my 2020 releases done. And in July, I will start my 2021 releases. So, but I am like the only person I know who is that far ahead.
Yeah.
So
it's definitely unusual in the indie world, at least. With traditional, that's pretty common, but it does allow you some unique opportunities. Like you generally release your audiobooks the same day, right?
I do. Well, sometimes it's not exactly a science.
Yeah.
Even when you go through the pre-order process with them, that you're going to be able to release your audio. So it's like within the same week, and I'm always happier to see it up early versus late, because on a release day, the audio goes. I mean, I sell a lot more audio now that I have timed the audio to go with the releases.
I think it's an important point that people don't realize, that if you can start moving your business processes toward doing something like that, that simultaneous release of audio, and I imagine print, really does help move the other the other formats.
Yeah, I don't do great in print. I would be lying if I said otherwise. Like I was talking to my friend Pamela Kelly, who's in women's fiction. It could be the genre. She is selling gangbusters in women's fiction in print. If I get 30 print copies sold a day, That's pretty impressive for me. The print numbers have been all over the place though, because Amazon was not fulfilling print on demand for quite a while. So it's like they're catching up. So one day I'll have like 15 print books and the next day I'll have like 125 and then it goes down to 30. They are just all over the place right now.
We're seeing the same thing with our partners. The supply chain, I think, is just busted between COVID. People are having problems getting paper, getting the parts they need to repair printers. Like, it's just a mess. On top of that, everyone's ordering more and like through delivery services, and so
it's just,
we all long for when everything goes somewhat back to normal.
Yeah, print is by far though my third channel for money. It goes ebooks, then audio, then print. So
in writing so fast, like you, I think more than anyone I know, you have a very you stick to like a very rigid schedule. So can you kind of walk through that and how do you keep yourself sane writing so much?
I'm hyper efficient, which when it comes to writing, I need other people to be hyper efficient around my house, which is why I have maids. It's like the only part of my life I'm hyper efficient, but I've come up with like a streamlined process. So when I start a book, I have it outlined and I do it in notebooks. I don't have one handy, unfortunately. And I basically jot down like 3 sentences per chapter. So I know where each chapter is going. However I want to get there while I'm writing is fine. And I just kind of let that part go. And then when I do the 3 chapters a day, each of my chapters is roughly 3,000 words. So it's between generally 9,000 to 10,000 words a day during the weekdays. I think I hit about 45,000 words a week. When I finish that book though, and I think this is one of the keys, I immediately outline the next book in the series so I don't forget where I am in the storyline and what needs to be hit. I do the bullet points at the top. You covered this in the last book, so keep this as non-running joke or whatnot.
Yeah.
And so it's completely outlined, and I might not, in some cases, I don't get back to that series for 6 months. But when I do, it's all laid out for me, and there's none of that going back to the previous book to look at what I had just done. And that has been a real time saver.
That's really smart, yeah.
And once I'm done with it, I only go through it once because I become blind to my errors. So I have a team of a line editor and then some other proofreaders who go through it for me. And then I just have to organize who gets it when. And I usually get it back 3 months before it's published for me to go through it one more time, format it. And I basically have a system where I go through once it's ready. When I load up the pre-order for the ebook, I load everything for the print book, even though I don't press publish, but it's already there. So I know 24 to 48 hours before the ebook goes live to press the publish button on the print book, and it's done. And usually, because audio is a separate little panel, but usually that's well on the way up. I have not had the problems with ACX that a few other people have been complaining about of late. I've not seen long delays. However, I'm exclusive with ACX, which I think has something to do with it. And all of my narrators are like on their approved list, essentially. So I don't really have, I know about 10 days out. As long as the narrator presses the approve button, it usually goes straight through. So I've got a little system. So
with that process, you mentioned having maids, and I think that's something I don't think we've talked about it before on the show. Is it is okay to the most valuable use of your time is going to be writing, and so outsourcing some of those things that you might not necessarily like to do. I've had a hard time. Like I just this last year started paying someone to mow my lawn.
Oh, really?
I was just raised that like it's something I can do myself. Why spend money on it?
When I left my Roseville house, I was like, I'm never mowing a lawn again. And my lawn at that Roseville house was like a postage stamp. And once I was out there, it was like a half-hour job. But I was like, it was still, I would hem and haw and wait days to get out there till it was overgrown and my neighbors hated me. But now I've got a regular lawn service. They're coming on Fridays these days, and they know that this time of year I'm in the pool, so they actually come like at 6 o'clock ish. So I'm not in the pool, and I outsource everything. If I could outsource someone to clean that pool, but I can't find anyone locally because pools are a very seasonal thing here in
Yes.
Michigan.
Yeah.
They don't have people that'll come clean my pool. When I get a winter place in New Orleans and it happens to have a pool, I guarantee there will be someone else taking care of the pool. It's just not an option now. But I have maids that come once a week, and since I have 5 cats, they're necessary. And I have a lawn crew that comes once a week. I outsource everything I possibly can.
So authors, you are hearing it here. Dan and Amanda give you permission to outsource all these things. Just
yes.
The world wants you to be writing. Your readers want you to be writing. Just outsource the stuff that you don't need to do, because it's going to make your life a lot better. With your genre, and I think this is true of a lot of fiction genres, series are kind of the norm, right?
Oh yeah, and long series in cozy mysteries. Whereas you take UF, most readers expect a 3-book trilogy in UF. In cozies, they want long series because they become attached to the characters. And I've had my readers actually say, I'd be fine if there wasn't even a mystery. Just tell me what they're doing every day. I'm fine with it. You know, I have series going on 20 books, a couple of them. So, you know,
I think there are a lot of people that they're used to what happened in traditional publishing, where traditional publishing would want much smaller series. I think that was largely driven by the bookstores wanting to have a variety on their shelves. Nowadays, like digital shelves make that irrelevant, and people really do want to stick with the same.
They do. And there are some traditionally published series, like Stephanie Plum is up to like 30 books. One of my favorites, I really am a huge fan of the J.D. Robb In Death series, and I think it's up to like 50 books or close. But I think that's the rarity in publishing. And I do think also the way I have it set up under Amanda M. Lee, each series gets 2 entries a year. And under Lily Harper Hart, I have 4 series, and each one gets 3 entries a year. I don't get bored because I do something in that series and then I swing to other series. And by the time I wind my way back around to that series, I'm excited to write in it again versus, a lot of authors are like, oh, this is a slog. I'm sick of being in this world type deal. I don't have that because I jump from world to world.
Is that why you went with having 2 pen names, is so that you could kind of switch in between the different worlds, or were you experimenting with genre?
Honestly, when I started Lily Harper Hart, I was trying my hand at romantic suspense, and apparently I'm very bad at it.
Okay.
However, I'm the only author I know who would write 24 books in a romantic suspense series, and everyone else would have quit after like the 3rd book, but I wrote 24 in it. And then I was still experimenting with that name, and they're still cozy mysteries, but they are like half romance, half cozy mysteries, and they're dual point of view books. And they started selling fairly well, and they're just kind of a break in a weird way. My Amanda M. Lee books are more in depth with more really intricate worlds, but I really like the break of the Lily Harper Hart worlds, which are a little more simple. It's the couple is important to it, and so I switch back and forth. The only thing that catches me up on that, though, is I write in first person in Amanda M. Lee, and then I write in third person in Lily Harper Hart, and I have to be very careful, especially if I've switched from Amanda M. Lee to Lily Harper Hart, because all of a sudden I'll be writing first person when it's not. And so when I go back through, I'm like, oh, no. But
yeah. Do you think in retrospect, would you, if you go back in time, would you do that again? Like,
no.
It's that switch. Yeah, you just stick with one brand.
I would keep everything under Amanda M. Lee. Romantic Suspense was very different from Amanda M. Lee. And then when I hit on a series, which was the Maida Graves series, that sold really well under Lily Harper Hart, I'm like, well, I'll try another series and another series. And now I'm kind of caught. If I had to do, I have been considering letting the series under Lily Harper Hart continue and then moving the rest under Amanda M. Lee. But they're very kind of different in a weird way because of the third person and first person. So I go back and forth on it.
Yeah.
And one day I'll be all like gung ho that I'm changing everything, and then the next day I'm like, oh, that's too much work.
I definitely feel like the consensus now in the indie author world, from talking to people at conferences, seems to be like, don't have a pen name unless you're writing in genres that are just opposed in some way. Like if you're in YA and you also write erotica, you probably need a pen name. In some cases, if you're writing nonfiction and then you're also writing fiction, it makes sense to have a pen name. But most of it, it's a lot of work to maintain two pen names and to social media newsletter presences.
It is, and I have lazied it up a bit. When I created my reader group, it's a reader group for both Amanda Emily and Lily Harper Hart because I'm not dealing with two reader groups. My Lily Harper Hart stuff has a dedicated page on amandaemily.net, whereas not its own website because I'm not messing with that.
Right.
And I used to, because the Romantic Suspense had a bunch of sex scenes in it. The rest of them do not. But I used to try to keep them separate, but I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't figure out that there's pretty quickly in that first book that there's sex in it, and then want to complain 7 books in, I don't know what to tell you.
Definitely.
So, you know.
What is your take on advertising right now? From talking to you in the past, I get the feeling like you've got this remarkable relationship with your readers, so you know exactly what they're looking for, and so you grow a lot by word of mouth. Do you do a lot of advertising, or are you?
I don't. I got bored during quarantine. Made a really cool book trailer for myself on Final Cut Pro, and bid it on some Facebook ads. But that was the first time I'd done any Facebook ads in I don't know how long. It did okay, but I've taken it down now. I had more fun making the video than I did messing around with the Facebook advertising. I do AMS ads. I have a BookBub featured deal next week. I'm pretty lazy about the advertising. I usually rely on the new releases as my momentum because since I release 2 books a month, at least, sometimes 3, that keeps me pretty high in the algorithm. Yeah. I don't know that a lot of people could publish that much because we're talking full novels. It's not quite. There are some romance niches where you can get away with like 15 to 30,000 words in installments, and the readership is fine with that. But my readership is not fine with that. I've actually found that the longer the book, the happier they are.
Yes.
You know. So I don't. It's not like I don't advertise, but I don't advertise like a lot of my peers advertise. And I go through cycles. Like I'll be like really high on it one week. I'm like, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna do all these BookBub ads, and I'm gonna do all these Facebook ads, and I'm gonna do all these AMS ads, and then I literally lose interest 5 days later, and I'm like, yeah, let's turn these off. I don't even, so. I wish I was better at Facebook ads. I'm not great at them. The video did pretty well, but I really had more fun making it than I did. And then when I showed other people that I made it, they were like, I can't believe you could have been writing and you made that. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know. Every once in a while, I get a little bee up my butt, and I'm like, you know what might be fun?
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing. Finding the things that you like, especially within marketing, the things that you enjoy and just letting yourself have fun with them. It's a great break. Like, you can't be writing all the time.
No, and listen, I'm one of those people that can write with the television on, and it doesn't bother me. As long as it's something I've seen before. I couldn't go into a new season of Stranger Things and then try to write while it was on because I'd never get anything accomplished. But I can write over old episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer all the time. I've been writing over old episodes of the X-Files. So that doesn't bother me. I was a journalist before this, and I actually learned Final Cut Pro on that. And it's actually a mildly cumbersome, program.
Yeah.
But I was one of the only people who actually learned it. And so all of a sudden I'm like, I saw the footage on Shutterstock and I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? And the next thing I knew, I'd spent $300 on footage. But I actually it was a nice mental break. I played with it a couple hours and, came up with a fun trailer. And I might do it again.
Yeah.
But I actually have more fun with the actual creation part of it than the advertising part of it, which I think makes me an outlier in that part of it. But
I know for us, doing these interviews, we're just having a lot of fun with them. And so it makes it so much better. It gives us some content to market to people. But just the fact that we enjoy them so much and like we get to spread them out between me, Mark, and Kevin has been really great. You mentioned, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, like you and I usually see each other like 3 times a year on various trips, but everyone's stuck at home right now. So it's also a good way to kind of touch base.
It really is.
Other.
I saw like a little cartoon the other day that was like podcasting is an excuse for grown men to like talk to each other. So it's just kind of one of those weird things. Like it's been great for me to catch up with a lot of my friends from conferences that this year I'm just not getting to see. And so.
Right. And I mean, we saw each other in Salem in October, but I mean, we might not see each other at all this year. So.
Yeah. You mentioned your background as a journalist, and it's just interesting what you think, how that has helped your author career, or what things you've learned from that apply to your author career.
Well, it actually has really helped. When I went to college, which was the early 90s, the internet wasn't a thing yet, and nobody could have foreseen what would happen to the journalism.
Yeah.
With the internet. So it seemed like a safe bet. I wanted to write books, but you always need the day job type deal. So I think being a journalist really helped me be deadline oriented. I can get a lot done in a short amount of time as long as and I'm very good. Every Sunday I create a list. This has to be done this week. And I usually have most of the busy work aspect of it done by Wednesday, unless, like, say, I know on the weekend a big storm is coming, especially in the winter. Like if I know a blizzard's coming, I will just let all that busy work pile up until the weekend, because if I can't leave the house anyway, I might as well do that while I'm watching television and get out while I can. People think that I have some sort of trick to be able to write so much, but I don't. I learned as a journalist that things had to be done by a certain time. There were no excuses if your stuff wasn't done. And especially toward the end of my journalism career, we were so cut to the bone. Sometimes you were writing 6 stories a day. So that means making the calls or going to the crime scene or going to the courthouse and getting all that information still all had to be written before you could leave. And I think I thrive with the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And I thrive with the schedule. People don't get the schedule thing, because I think writers especially like the whimsical, I'm going to go skip through the meadow and get my inspiration and then maybe sit down and write my 500 words. Whereas I'm just like, you got 3 chapters to get done today. You can't go to bed till they're done. And I'm good at self-discipline that way. Whereas, I mean, I'm not good with self-discipline when it comes to keeping my house clean or other types of stuff, or ordering takeout when I say I won't. But with the work stuff, I'm really good at self-policing myself to get it done.
Yeah. I think a lot of the most successful authors I know came out of backgrounds of journalism and or being lawyers. And both are professions that teach you exactly that you have to get the work done. It's a lot of writing, and to not be precious about your words. And so it's been interesting.
No, and that's
I did
the
not
other
expect
thing.
that.
I don't edit as I go. I know a lot of people are like, they'll write a paragraph and then they'll like toil over that paragraph. I do not do that. I spit everything out. And if I can't remember a name, I put 3 uppercase X's. So it's something I know to catch when I'm editing. So I never break from my flow as I'm writing. I just keep going. And if I can't remember something, I throw in 3 X's and then I catch up on those 3 X's in the editing process. And it really streamlines down what I'm doing.
Yeah. Like just making sure you don't break out of that flow state, I think is so important. Because like
Yes.
when you're on, you're on, and you just need to continue writing, and then you can go back and fix everything.
Well, and it was difficult when I first left my job as a journalist and started working at home, because everyone assumes that if you're home, they can just bug you whenever.
Yeah.
And I had an aunt who all the time was like, "What do you think about General Hospital?" And I'm like, "Well, I haven't been watching it." She's like, "Well, you're home all day." And I'm like, "Well, I still have work to do." And eventually I realized I couldn't train other people. I just had to turn off other people. And like even my other writer friends, they kind of know that even when I'm writing and when I'm playing Pokemon, I don't respond to messages. So, in fact, my friend Bella Falls, who is also a cozy mystery author, she makes a running joke. Someone said, "Well, you didn't message me back," and she goes, "She was playing Pokemon. She doesn't message you back." So
I think that's incredibly important about your schedule, is that you have built in like these rewards, like going and sitting at the pool or playing Pokemon, and you protect that time. Like even like on some of the conferences and trips that we've been on together, you make sure you schedule that time for yourself.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, even when we were in Salem, I'm just like, I'm going to play Pokemon. I'll see you guys in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And you guys had to wait for dinner for me one night because I'm like, I'm doing this raid. Then we can go to dinner. And you guys are like, oh, God. But I mean, yeah, I get but honestly, in a weird way, Pokemon it's like a think, because it's not an active game. So I can play it while brainstorming other stuff. So I am kind of technically working doing it. I'm just, I like I'm very goal oriented, so I like to win, and I like all the shinies, and I like the raids, and I think it helps me mentally. So I love it. Yeah, no, I have a great time.
Let's get into a little bit like you mentioned Salem, the whole concept of the research trip. What do you like? What sorts of research trips have you done? What things are you looking for, and how have those made their way into your books?
Well, I'm writing a book right now that's set in Salem, because we were in Salem. And so to explain for people, one of the big things that happens in the book happens at the House of the Seven Gables, which we went on a tour on. To describe it, the ceilings are very low, and they made us go upstairs in the tiniest staircase imaginable.
That staircase was crazy. Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, it's tiny and it's claustrophobic, but I built that into the story. I mean, while we were there, you were there too. I was working out stuff for a mystery in my head as we were going through, because it had such unique stuff in it. I wasn't 100% sure which series it was going to end up in, and I do kind of wanted to set an entire series in the future in Salem, because it's a neat little town that's very condensed. It doesn't spread out, which I like, unlike other metropolitan areas which are more spread out. This one, really, we could walk it in like from end to end in 20 minutes, which I liked. I also like New Orleans. I absolutely love the city. I have a series under Lily Harper Hart set there, and I plan to do more with it. I've been there. I've done quite a bit we took a trip to Charleston. I've done quite a bit there. Next year, Bella Falls, if we can travel, Bella Falls and I really want to do a Savannah, Georgia trip. And then
that would be fun. Yeah.
Originally, our plan for next spring was to do a London writers retreat and do a bunch of day trips out from it. But that doesn't seem like it's probably going to be able to be a reality. So we pushed that off for a year, and we're looking hopefully at Savannah, Georgia, which is another haunted location, which helps with my books. There are quite a few places we have talked about this before. I desperately want to go to the Shining Hotel in Colorado, like nobody's business.
I've heard it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of places. Unfortunately, travel is really cut down right now. So I'm not doing, but you know what I have? I have a VR set, and it's got the Google Earth app on it.
Yes.
And so I sit in the floor and I can actually kind of visit anywhere I want. And since I'm looking for real estate in New Orleans, I've used it some for that, but I can go to other places and look around too. It's a lot of fun. Occasionally you get a weird spot like where they were doing construction whenever the Google Earth people were coming through. Like if you look at Bourbon Street on it, half of it is under construction and half of it isn't, and it's weird. But I like doing stuff like that.
I've got one of the
travel.
Oculus Quest sets as well, and I spend so much time in Google Earth, and just you can fly over things, you can view things from street level to kind of get an idea. I just every time I use it, I think of how useful that might be to authors.
Oh no, I have found it. I mean, the set was, I have the Oculus Quest too. The set was kind of expensive, and I will say people don't get it, but even though you know you're standing on very flat ground with nothing, the way you move around in it, sometimes occasionally you're like, oh, I'm going to tip over, even though you're perfectly fine. And sometimes I get vertigo, so I'll actually sit down while I'm looking at stuff, but it's been helpful for real estate. And like I took it right before I wrote this book to refresh myself with the layout of Salem is pretty basic, but you know, Essex Street and then that Derby Street are basically the ones you're on. But I like to refresh myself with, you know, some of the landmarks and whatnot, and it is really helpful.
Yeah, I absolutely love my Quest, and especially during quarantine, it's been a lot of fun. We're kind of at the point where we take questions. So got a lot of comments and questions here. Like I'm not even sure where to start. Let me go with. I might go with this one from Melissa. Love Amanda's books. I even named my dog Aisling. Is that how you pronounce that?
Aisling.
Aisling after the Grimlock series.
Well, that's not. Yeah,
Linda also loves your books.
To be fair, I think the strangest one I've got is one woman wrote me that she'd named her chickens after my witches. I thought that was randomly weird.
Wow.
And fun.
Yeah.
However, awesome. I have cats named after Lord of the Rings, so I have Pippin, Merry, you know, Arwen, and Bilbo. So it's kind of flattering.
It is cool. Wilfrida, will there be any more shorts?
Not anytime soon. People don't actually like the 30K shorts all that much, and it becomes a waste of time when in the time I could write 2 30K shorts, I can write one book that makes 60K book that makes a lot more. So, and I got a lot of negative feedback on them. So
I think I've kind of seen that trend that just within the digital marketplace, the shorts just don't do as well. And so if you're going to do, except for like a handful of genres, like erotica shorts work okay there. But
right.
Yeah, seems like longer is better. Jamie asks, is your book trailer on YouTube? I would love to see it.
It is not, but maybe I will load it. I did spend a bunch of time on it. I shared it in my group and stuff. It's
gotcha.
Very fun. So
can they find it on your website, or is it just
no, but that's another good idea.
Yeah,
I could go load it up there.
We'll share your website here at the end of the episode for everybody. Marlene, how do the people your base characters on react to being in the books? What about real places like Gus's Coney Island? Are you locally famous when you're out in town?
I'm locally famous as a Pokemon nut. I am not locally famous as an author. Everyone I know, when I see they're like, oh, Amanda, you're going to play Pokemon? They can tell I just got my phone and I'm going. Gus's Coney Island is a real place in downtown Mount Clemens. I know Evan, the gentleman who runs it, knows me, and he thinks it's fun. I based a lot of characters on people I know in real life, and most of them are fine with it. I think any of the negative characters I've created, I'm not in touch with those people anymore anyway, so they probably haven't read the books, and I don't care. So I really don't. Prove it's you. You're gonna have to own up to all that crap if you wanna prove it's you. So
I know you mentioned before one of the favorite scenes that you tend to have in your books are the dinners that they have. Are those based on like your friends and family?
That's based on my mom's family. When I was a kid, my grandmother had this very huge formal dining room with one of those big long tables, and one side was all windows that looked out at their pool, but like 20 people would sit at this table, and half of them were Democrats and half of them were Republicans.
Yeah.
And people would just go at each other, and everyone, my family, I don't think some people get it, but my family's extremely snarky, and we have no problem pointing out when someone has done something wrong in the past, and we'll bring it up for years after the fact. And we fight with each other, and it's a running joke. Like, we can say whatever we want about our family members, but if someone else says something about them, then we all jump into a big fight to protect them. So we'll mess with each other. Like my cousin Kylie is one of my best friends. She lives in my old house in Roseville. She's got several characters based on her in books, and she thinks it's great. But she and I still fight about stuff, but then of course, we make up and hate people together. So
with my best friends, if an outsider was just listening to us, we're kind of brutal towards each other, but we know we know each other, so it's just in fun. We love the sarcasm.
Well, you made a joke at dinner, I think at Nink last year, where you said, we've come to the point in our relationship where we're just bagging on each other like brothers and sisters all the time, because we just will insult each other over dinner and no one thinks anything of it. It's fine.
Yeah. It's kind of a fun place to be. Marlene asked a really important question here. How do you manage to write so prolifically and yet keep up with Pokemon Go and Wizards United? I'm curious. Are you still doing Wizards United, or are you just back to? Wow,
I do both of them. Pokemon is more of an addiction, but I still like the Wizards Unite. I just schedule it in. Like this morning, I was up at 7. I wrote a chapter. Then I took my iPad to my outdoor mall, which is where my Starbucks is. I cannot drink in the Starbucks like I used to. I used to be able to sit there, keep my phone up, and spin and get all my gifts and eggs and everything while writing, and I would set an incense so it would time me. So you do 2 incenses, and in an hour I'd get 3,000 words of one chapter done, and then do the same. I can't go do that inside. Luckily the weather's pretty good. I can do it right outside the Starbucks and get my drinks. I just schedule.
Yeah.
When I have a deadline, that's why I throw the incense in when I'm playing Pokemon. It times me. So I try to beat the incense.
Yeah. I think it's smart, like especially with Pokemon, it's an excuse to get out of your chair and to walk around. And authors sometimes need to remember that they need to take time to for their body, because like sitting and it's like covering over a keyboard.
Well, it's been really tough with quarantine, because in Michigan we had we didn't get a spring in Michigan. We had winter linger forever, and then it went straight to summer. So getting outside with the rain and the cold, I mean, the day they opened my pool on May 11th, I believe, it was 40 degrees in Michigan, and it snowed. Not a lot, but it was enough to be like, what the hell, So then we had like a week of bad weather, and then all of a sudden it was in the 90s, and so we didn't have a spring. So it's kind of this whole year, I'm sure everyone can relate, has just been all kind of screwy.
It seems like it's been a decade in 1 year. Just
it really does. I mean,
Sherry says, the one author that I make sure I purchase every book when it's released. That's a great feeling when you have developed that relationship with your readers, that they just want to insta-buy the book.
Yes, my readers are very nice. And they do like the snark, and we all know I'm snarky, as you know from being in a lot of places with me.
What?
I know. You're shocked.
Oh my gosh, I've got so many comments. I'm trying to read through all of them. So I apologize if I miss anyone's comments, but kind of doing it. This one about your characters. Can you pronounce?
Oh, Killian, like
Killian.
The beer.
So Killian, like the beer.
Irish, yeah.
I would have guessed Cillian, so I think Killian's a good one.
Yep.
Lauren asked, how far are you planning on taking the Deathgate series? Many of us love the Grimlocks and Izzy and don't want them to end.
9 books total.
9 books total.
Yep.
Is that one complete now, or is it
no, I think I'm going to start writing the 6th book relatively soon. So
Lauren says our family is the same. I think that's the reason I love your book so much.
Well, it is weird that I have gotten some people get pushback on me and they're like, no family would act like that, and other people are like, oh God, you really nailed my family.
Yeah.
So I think that some families my family is loud. We are loud people. You know, my cousin Chucky is a character in my Avery Shaw book, and he goes into my reader group and engages my readers all the time with the weird stuff he's doing. And everyone's like, doesn't that drive you nuts? I'm like, no, it's fine.
It's cool.
Yeah, that's just how we interact. I didn't have brothers and sisters, so my cousins were kind of like my brothers and sisters, and we're all extremely tight for the most part, and we do weird things to one another. That's just how we are.
I personally come from a very small, quiet family, and so it's been interesting to me, like, because I have friends that have these large families that are very loud and boisterous and like do everything together. And I think people love to see that, like family interactions. We all have them, and so when you work those into books, they just can be really meaningful to readers.
Well, and I find that if you're actually doing something that is more real, as long as, I mean, you can write about witches and grim reapers and whatnot, but as long as the emotions are real, people invest in it.
Yeah.
Which I think is important, and that's the part that people sometimes don't focus on, is keeping the. I mean, I'll waste an entire chapter on a family argument at dinner, but people love it, even though it doesn't necessarily advance the plot.
Yeah, like if knowing your readers lets you know, yeah, I can do this, and they will like it. Elizabeth says, I started with the Covenant College series and loved it. Do you think there will be another short spurt of books to see what's happening in their life, or will it be just crossovers? Love
just crossovers, unless I decide to age up the daughter character. The adult characters, their story's kind of done, other than crossovers.
Courtney asks, out of all of your characters, who do you relate the most to?
Avery Shaw. She's me. She's horrible. She's mouthy. She has no problem getting in a fight. She's also a journalist in Macomb County, Michigan. She's completely based on me. There's, from the horrible food she eats to the mouthy crap she gets into, that's just what I would like. So
yeah. Maria asked, what writing program do you use? And I would like to expand that question a little bit. Just I'd be interested to hear what tools you use in general, because you create your own covers, right?
Yes. I use Photoshop for those.
For advertising and for your books and such.
I use Photoshop for the covers. I write in Word, which other people don't get because they're big Scrivener. I don't like Scrivener. It's too many bells and whistles. I create a folder for each book. Each chapter gets its own Word file, and then as I'm editing, I compile all those Word files into one Word file. Then I keep it in Word for when I'm sending it to the editors because of the track changes feature. When I get it back, I go through all that, and once the manuscript is finished to what I like, I drag it in Vellum, and that's the best program money can buy as far as I'm concerned, because you can tick 2 boxes and create ebook and print book, and it's just done right there for you in 30 seconds.
We have
before that, I was compiling, before Vellum, I was compiling my own print books, and it was a nightmare. Hours upon hours of work.
We had one of the early interviews we did was with one of the Brads from Vellum, and so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can hear it directly from them. Vellum is great. It helps you with EPUBs, with Mobi, which are the 2 digital formats you need, and then it makes beautiful PDFs for print.
I've said this over and over again. Vellum is the single best investment I have ever made for the time saver, so I can write more versus formatting.
Yeah.
Vellum is just the best thing that was ever invented as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Lauren says the dinners are one of my favorite things in your books. So, obviously your fans are loving them. Keep on doing the dinners. And Sherry says, Avery is who I always wanted to be when I was younger.
Well, Avery, I even had the shark mittens that I would do puppet shows for my boss. His name was Ken Kish, and ironically, Avery's editor's name is Fred Fish. And when I didn't want to cover stuff, I would do puppet shows with my shark mittens about why I didn't want to cover stuff, and yet I still had to go. So
yeah, sometimes you got to do that.
Yeah.
Philip asked, have you ever gotten any reaction from the person you based Duncan on in the Avery Shaw series?
Well, I would like to point out that Philip is one of my editors. He's also my former editor at the newspaper, and he knows who I based that character on, and I can guarantee that character has never read my books. So no, I have not. That was just an in joke.
That sounds like an interesting story.
Yeah, no, that was in joke. So
I very much like. I've never read a paranormal cozy, and I've been meaning to because I've known you and several authors that write them now for years. So that's something I'm just gonna have to get on and do because.
I was actually surprised how. I mean, I don't. My readership is predominantly female, but I do have a few random dudes who are like, "Oh yeah, no, I love them," and I'm like, "Okay."
That's always a good feeling. All right, where we're getting to the close of our show, I want to make sure and share. You can find Amanda at amandamlee.net. So you can go there. You've got a Facebook group that people are fairly active in, right?
It's called Keep the Curses Coming, and then with Amanda Emily and Lily Harper Hart, so it's pretty easy to find.
So check out Amanda's books and check out her website and group. Thank you so much for being on, Amanda.
No, it was a lot of fun.
It just definitely your experience and the fact that you've been doing this for a long time now.
2011, so yeah.
Just always a wealth of information, and it's so cool to see how invested your readers are in your books, and them wanting to know all these little ins and outs of who was this character based on. It's just a testament to the connection you have with them.
Thank you. It was fun.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Tune in the future. We're now available as a podcast. We're here on YouTube and on Facebook Live. These are all available after the fact, so you can always check them out. And thank you for being here. Bye.